And it's like, yeah, if I slice off my arm and start trying to shove it into my arteries, I imagine it probably would clog them up. But by that point, I'm going to be dead anyway. Fur up your arteries at the same time, just to have a little bit of a sense of humour or something. And the other thing is, how does food even fur up your arteries? You eat your food, right? You don't inject it into your bloodstream. So I eat my food, it goes down the esophagus, it starts going into the digestive system, it goes into the stomach, it goes into the lower intestine, it goes into lymphatic system, and it gets packaged out to take the nutrients around the body. When did any of that food jump out of my digestive system and leap its way into my arteries to clog up my arteries? I mean, they've created this incredibly visual scam. I remember there was a public health video in the UK about 20 years ago, and they had somebody sticking fat, pure solidified lard, tallow, whatever, down the sink and saying it will block up your sink and it will block up your arteries in just the same way. And it's like, yeah, if I slice off my arm and start trying to shove it into my arteries, I imagine it probably would clog them up. But by that point, I'm going to be dead anyway. The more you look at nutrition, the more mental it gets.
That's a good old school commercial, right? To scare people with that horrible visual. I think we covered a little bit of saturated fat, maybe even like why there's this demonization of meat. Obviously, like you said, you have to consider the intentions of big food, big pharma. Where's all the money coming from, and where's it going? I had a conversation with one of my supervisors about this. Very nice guy. He's one of our research leads. And so we're just having a conversation about triglycerides and HDL and LDL. Do you think, like from the studies, the issue is with just cholesterol in general? Is it LDL, or is it the fact that people just have low HDL? Because when we were having a discussion, he said, he doesn't agree that LDL seems to be the issue. It looks like if people have a low HDL, then they tend to have, worse outcomes.
I do not personally see cholesterol as any issue whatsoever. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. So the body is making cholesterol. My body's making cholesterol right now. Your body's making cholesterol right now. We'll both probably make more cholesterol when we're asleep, because that's kind of what the body does. It does all the repair and maintenance then. It's making it because it is utterly life vital, and we would die without it. And people don't seem to realise that. So if by some miracle, let's say a statin completely removed all cholesterol from the body in just one tablet, we would be a puddle on the floor. There would be no cell left intact. There's no cell integrity, there's no cell structure. It is the essence of life. And the body has a pathway, the mevalonate pathway, by which it is making cholesterol. And there are other sort of byproducts of the pathway. So, for example, CoQ10 is further down the mevalonate pathway, and CoQ10 is also called sort of the body's energy spark plug, which is why when some people take statins, they end up feeling that their get up and go has got up and gone. They lose their energy. They also can lose their minds, because the brain hosts, or the brain hosts 25% of the cholesterol in the body. So they can find they lose their memory, they lose their mind. You can lose your muscle benefit. It can do real harm. And I kind of just, again, at a top level, I'm a really simple sort of let's get up into the helicopter and let's see what's going on here kind of place. Why would the body have a pathway to make an utterly life vital substance without which we would immediately die, and then it be a good idea to block that pathway? So starting point, I do not see cholesterol as a problem at all. I see the body is making cholesterol, the body is making the cholesterol that it needs to. Now, I did think maybe cholesterol is a marker. Maybe it's one of those things that it's telling us something. It doesn't necessarily mean that we should be lowering it. Kind of like, I'm a bit curious about blood pressure as well. Blood pressure is a marker to me. It's a really useful marker. And then we just medicate. We don't try to work out why has this person got high blood pressure. Actually, there's an incredible normal distribution with blood pressure, as there is with cholesterol. And the normal distribution is normal because it is the normal distribution. So the normal distribution for cholesterol probably goes from 3 to 10. So somebody's going to have 10. But of course, the medical profession has decided that 5 is too high. And therefore, they just kind of want to shift the whole Normal distribution, the same with blood pressure. The true normal blood pressure was 140/90. And then we put loads of people on blood pressure meds, and then suddenly you're being told you've got high blood pressure, it's 130/85 or whatever. So to me, there is no issue with cholesterol. And because there is no issue with cholesterol, the whole LDL, HDL thing, and this is going to be a bit of a mind shift for some people as well. If you stop talking to me about cholesterol and you start talking to me about HDL, LDL, chylomicrons, triglycerides, which are VLDL by another name, then we're not having a conversation about cholesterol anymore. We're having a conversation about lipoproteins. So are you now worried about lipoproteins, or are you still worried about cholesterol? Because if you're worried about cholesterol, I really don't think you need to be. And then when people start saying, oh, well, okay, I'm not worried about total cholesterol, but I'm worried about LDL cholesterol, but I think HDL cholesterol is really good. It's like they're the same substance. The chemical formula for cholesterol is C27H46O. And there is no good or bad version. Cholesterol is cholesterol is cholesterol. So in we should probably quickly explain what lipoproteins are. So if I took my beaker of, put it in camera here, if I took my beaker of water here and I got some olive oil and I drip some olive oil in the water, it won't mix because fat and water don't mix. That's the analogy for blood being water and the olive oil being lipids that need to travel around our bloodstream to reach the cells to do their vital work. So the body has come up with this fantastic system, and it says, okay, we're going to have these things called lipoproteins. I think of them as taxis. And these little taxis are going to go in the bloodstream to transport the vital cargo, and they're going to be water friendly on the outside for the blood, and they're going to be fat friendly on the inside for the lipids. And those lipoproteins are all carrying cholesterol, phospholipids, triglycerides and protein, all of them, just in different amounts. So the HDL is just a high density lipoprotein. It's just smaller than the LDL, which is a low density lipoprotein. So it's less tightly compressed. They have different amounts of cholesterol, different amounts of protein, triglycerides and all the rest of it, but they're both just taxis, and they're both taxis that carry cholesterol. So why, there you go, brilliant. And that's not a bad size dimension as well. So someone has done that to size. So the chylomicron, which is the one when you've eaten your lovely steak and you've got some saturated fat, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, but more importantly, you've got the fat-soluble vitamins and nutrients. The chylomicron is the one in the lymphatic system. The body will package those nutrients out onto the chylomicrons, and they start going off around the body with the intent of dropping off that cargo to the cells that need it. Now, in a separate universe, the liver is making very low density lipoproteins. They're also called triglycerides, which gets a little bit confusing. So the liver's making the VLDL. Now, VLDL, as part of its process, kind of shrinks, keeping it simple, shrinks down to what we call intermediate density lipoproteins, IDL. They then shrink down and they become LDL. Now, some people then say, so if your VLDL goes up, then your LDL will go up. Now, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who's studied this more than anyone else I know, he's devoted his life to looking at what really causes heart disease. He say, well, actually, that is not the case. The amount of VLDL that you have doesn't actually determine the amount of LDL you have. So that's another issue for another day. The idea that HDL, another taxi, is good, but all those taxis to the left are bad, is just nuts. It's back, we were only in Mad World, insane, this doesn't make sense. A couple of minutes ago, we're back in Mad World, insane, it doesn't make sense. They're just taxis. The body didn't design 4 bad taxis and 1 good taxi. They are all made by the exquisite functioning of the body for very, very good reason. So the VLDL is taking cargo away from the liver, and it shrinks down to become IDL and LDL. So kind of think of LDL as the taxi that's taking stuff to the cells, and then the HDL taxi will be picking any stuff not used up by the cell and taking it back to the liver. Now again, if cholesterol was so deadly, why would it take it back to the liver? It doesn't excrete it from the body, doesn't treat it like a waste product, takes it back to the liver where it can be recycled and then packaged out again. So I want to sort of scream at people sometimes. They talk about cholesterol and then they just slip into LDL and HDL seamlessly. It's like, whoa, right, we're not talking about cholesterol anymore. we're talking about lipoproteins. So what's your beef with lipoproteins? You know, tell me, what's your issue with lipoproteins? Because you are no longer in the diet, heart, fat, cholesterol hypothesis. You are now arguing with me on lipoproteins. And so you've got to forget cholesterol and you've got to tell me what your issue is with lipoproteins and why you think you know better than the body, because the body has designed all of that, and that's how we've lived since we became humankind. And you're now trying to block that pathway. You're now trying to say that some of those are bad and some of those are good. And then you get people going into, oh, and then you've got small, dense LDL, and then you've got large, fluffy LDL, and all that kind of thing. It's like, apart from the fact, I now really just want to find a wall and start banging my head against it. And like, could that be, you know, are we going to get to peak stupidity in this podcast at some point? Yeah. Apart from that, you're back talking about lipoproteins. So, okay, but stop talking about cholesterol. People, they don't even understand what they're talking about. They, you know, when you sit down with your doctor and you have a blood test, I mean, I don't, because it's just too stupid. I upset myself. But I did once for a company medical, and a doctor's saying to me, oh, your bad cholesterol is really low and your good cholesterol is really high. And I'm like, I'm the maths graduate from Cambridge and you're the medic, and that's just come out of your mouth. I mean, like, guys, this is nuts. This is nuts. Right, should we try and not say this is nuts too many more times during whatever time we've got left?
Well, I appreciate that, explaining exactly what LDL. I certainly learned something from that, and I think we definitely don't in medical school, because we have so much we learn and learn it so fast, and we just kind of have to take it, apply it, write the test, and kind of move on. Again, just kind of trusting the guidelines. I think not many doctors really sit down and think about the nuances of the conversations, and I think there's just so much nuance being missed throughout papers, podcasts, and just in general. Was there? We touched a little bit about. It's going to be kind of transitioning. The sustainability issue that people think there is with meat. Is there, like, do you have something you could quickly share about maybe some numbers that people could kind of grasp and think about? I often hear, agriculture contributing to, 3 or 4% of like CO2 emissions. And I think that's such a big one that I hear doctors that I talk to as reasons for not eating animal-based foods. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, again, where do I start on that one? I might upset some of your listeners here because I don't buy the whole CO2 is bad. In fact, the parallels between the diet heart hypothesis and the CO2 hypothesis are actually really similar. So we've demonized, in the nutrition world, we've demonized cholesterol, and cholesterol is utterly life vital. And in kind of the environment world, we've demonized CO2, and CO2 is also utterly life vital.